Your deepest fears will surface. Welcome to Happy Suffer.
That's pretty fair, considering what happens in these movies, to be honest.
I wonder what was the original one. From the
ocean depths they strike. To terrorize, to mate, and to kill.
That's better. That's way better.
That kind of does tell you the whole movie, though.
Yeah.
So
that's what a tagline should do. Should be Batman beats the Joker at the end. Come see this movie.
You can decide if you still want to watch once they've told you the entire movie.
This is episode 260 of I Happy Suffer.
Wow.
I am the guy from Clueless.
I am the one-legged seagull.
What was there, one-legged seagull in this?
Okay, so I watched the original one first, and my very first note is one-legged seagull. They focus on it for a long time, so I thought he'd be a bigger part, but he's not.
I don't think I've watched the original Humanoids from the Deep since we did it for the podcast like 4 years ago.
So if you guys want to listen to that episode of the original, it is episode 49.
Yeah, way back. It was literally the episode right before you joined full time.
Yeah, actually. So... And then we did Incubus, which actually, there's a lot of parallels between Incubus and like the original Humanoids.
Well,
they reminded me of each other.
What it was is we had Erica, who was doing Customers Also Watched at the time, and we had her pick an episode based on how she did Customers Also Watched, where she picked a movie from the Customers Also Watched list on the Prime version of Humanoids from the Deep. And that's how, like, the Incubus is essentially the same sort of story, except sea creatures. It's like an alien or some shit, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember. Yeah. Alien or a demon or something, yeah. Lots of parallels.
So, we are talking about the 1996 remake of Humanoids from the Deep. I did not know this movie existed, I think, until we did that episode, and then immediately forgot it existed until, like... I was like, well, we were doing shark movies. I'm going to see if I can find something that's, like, still the water, but not specifically a shark. And I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot we never did this fucking remake. So, here we are. Gotta say, not the worst, not great.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, I like... There was nothing, like, I'm kind of glad we're not doing a regular episode on it because of the remake. There wasn't really anything, like, fun about it, or, like, it wasn't so bad it was funny. It just was kind of like a middle of the road.
It kind of feels a bit like the made-for-TV version of Humanoids from the Deep, because it's, like, sort of the same story, but it's, like, different, a little different. Oh fuck, what's the word? I don't know why the word just left me. It's like a different execution, I guess, of the same story. Where it's like, you know, in the original one, it's just they're just like attacking women like left or right all over the place, and as this one, they're like taking them to like a cave or some shit.
Yeah,
and like. I don't know. It's like it's very like a little. It's almost like someone saw Humanoids from the Deep and like Alien, and kind of like mixed them together.
They added like, I have to say, like the original. So I watched the original yesterday, and then I watched the remake today, and I have to say, like the original one was like fine. It was okay to me. It wasn't my favorite.
I don't think it's like the best movie, but I enjoy it. It's like a fun, like I think the monster effects in that kind of make up for the shortcomings of the actual like story.
Yeah, and I think what I like about them comparatively is that I think that there's a pretty interesting, because the first one was made in 1980, the second one was 1996. So I think the parallels between the two are really interesting because in the original, there's a lot more like what I like about it in comparison to the remake is that in the original one, it's a lot more like, obviously they're both creature movies, right? But in the original, it's like more mysterious, if that makes sense, because it's like, so like the plot of the movies is that there's a small like fishing town and they are known for their salmon. They have a salmon festival. That's like the the event that's happening here where everybody's going to get attacked, right? And so like the plot in the first one is like essentially not only are they like a fishing town, but they're also a canning town. So they have like a huge canning business that pretty much makes up for most of the jobs in the town. And so there's like, it feels a lot more isolated, and it also feels like, I really love horror or creature movies where everything just happens like contained in a small town. So you have like two different thoughts from the people there. Either the people are like, oh yeah, if we do, so they come up with this like chemical, it's basically like genetic engineering, right? But like genetic engineering wasn't really well known in the 80s or whatever. So they essentially like came up with this thing that they give to the salmon that they dump in the water that will make the salmon, they're like doing farming kind of, right? Where they're like plumping the salmon up so that when they harvest them, they'll get more money and et cetera, et cetera. And like half the town is like, oh yeah, awesome. This is our bread and butter. Like we need to do this. This is like a new cutting edge technology. And then half of the town is like, no, that's fucked up. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't mess with it, right? And so you really have like the town, like you do have the company there being like, hey, here's these hormones or whatever, but it's really the town like fighting against each other. So there's a lot of like towny stuff happening essentially, right? And then like attacks start happening, but it's like, and it also follows like a whole group of people. So there's a lot of like mystery around like what's happening. Some people believe like have seen the attacks, some people haven't. And it's like all kind of just like mysterious. They don't really know what's going on, but they need to like, the people are getting attacked left and right. And I think they also go from more of a like biological evolution like plot in the first one, whereas the remake is focuses on the dad from Even Stevens, and I think his name is Christian in Clueless. It focuses on them a lot. So there's a lot of like, the dad has a lot of like teen angst stuff going on with his daughter, which is like boring. And, it's like, of course, the daughter of the guy who works for the canning company is dating a like activist who is protesting what they're doing to the, and then you also have like the government being a part of it. And so to me, it was like, I don't know. It didn't have like a foreboding feel, because then the first attack that happens, they're immediately like, oh, it was a shark. And I was like, okay, that's so boring. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Like, I think the thing that made it, like, the storyline worse for me for the remake is, like, the first one, like you said, it's like, it's sort of just like a bunch of people in the town dealing with this thing happening. And in this one, you're very specifically, like, nobody gives a fuck about what's happening until, like, dude's daughter goes missing. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it's like a thing. And it's just like, okay, like, I don't give a fuck about this. I like it more when it's like a town having to deal with this like existential threat happening to them.
Well, and it's like a lot more people. So it's like essentially like what you come to find out in the first one is that, because I have like just like a page, 2 pages of like quick notes on the remake. And this is different. So what you find out in the original is that they have been giving this chemical to, and I think that this is so much cooler. They've been dumping this chemical in the water for the salmon, right? But somehow there's like prehistoric fish living down there that are also eating the chemicals, but it's like reacting to their biology different, and it's sped up their evolution to the point where they've evolved into these like humanoid amphibious creature things. And I'm like, that's badass. And so like, what is the number one biological thing that animals do? They try and like
reproduce.
Right. So essentially like what's happening in the first one is like it's very correlated. You know, there's a lot of course, naughty teenagers that are making out all over the place, and the humanoid creatures see them, kill the dudes, and I'm going to say also for the original specifically, tremendous amount of trigger warning because there are a lot of like
assaults.
Sexual assaults. They're not graphic, but like they can be triggering. There's a lot of screaming, you know what I mean? And also,
it's very like the 80s one is very much more of an like exploitation movie, whereas like they both are very much products of their time. Like the 80s one is very much, because it is like 1980. It's right as like, I think it was 1980, right? Yeah. It's like right around the time that like slasher boom's about to take off. It's coming out of the 70s, where there's a lot of like you know, like Last House on the Left type stuff. And so it's kind of like this mix of like the 70s, what's about to start in the 80s. And then the 90s one is also very much a product of its time, where almost all of the sex and violence in it is, for the most part, relatively cut out. Like you see, like there's like some gore of like you see the body in the morgue that was like pulled out or whatever. And like you see a lot, like you see like a severed leg, but you don't see. It's very much like that sort of sanitized version of horror that was happening in the 90s. And
definitely,
like some of that stuff like works. I feel like something like this, where you have like where the general plot is about like these fish creatures killing dudes, like, because that was the thing in the original one that I feel like they don't do a lot in this one, is like they were very specifically there to like mate with human women, and then like they're just killing all of the dudes.
So trigger warning for assault, and then also trigger warning for, in the first one, so many dogs die, and you see it, and it was terrible, and I hated it.
So I think that happened, like this sort of, they like allude to that happening in the like the remake.
They show like one dog, but there's like a handful of them in the original that like the scene is placed well, but just trigger warning for that, because it's like it's bad if you're sensitive to that kind of thing. And so it's like in the first one it's like very obvious, like aside from the very first attack in the movie, which is the first note I wrote after One-Legged Seagull was, man, I hope a humanoid eats this kid. He does. So the very first death is a child who falls in, and then the boat explodes for whatever reason. I
think that's in both of them, right? Is the
they
first...
do.
I know they do the child one in the remake, but I can't remember if it was the first.
It's not.
Oh, okay.
And so that's kind of what I was getting at. It's like in the very beginning, it's like when the humanoids are first surfacing, they just eat that kid because he's there, right? It's fine. In the second one, it kind of happens like it seems the humanoids are kind of just killing indiscriminately. Like it doesn't have anything to do with like, oh, I need that woman. You know what I mean? It's like they're just like killing people randomly. The kid does die. His mom jumps into the water to like save him, and then she ends up getting like taken or whatever. And so like it doesn't make a lot of sense, because then let's go through what I wrote for the remake so we can get to the difference in what is going on with these creatures. Where in the first one, I feel like I'm on board, super smart, I like it. This one, I hate it. So
yeah, it's not great.
This movie,
like this is like, I guess before we get into that, like for me, like I could see, like at some point in the future, like rewatching this, just because it's like, it's not necessarily like offensively bad. It's mostly just like boring.
Yeah.
Like, I like, the creatures look fine, they just don't do enough with them. And then, I don't know if it was just because, like, we watched, like, somebody somebody uploaded it to YouTube and like with like I think German subtitles or whatever, and like I don't know if it was like just because it's probably somebody's like old DVD from like the early 2000s they uploaded it with, like a lot of the shots are so dark that you could like barely see what's going on with the creatures, and so like the couple times you see them in the light, I'm like, okay, they look fine. They don't look as cool as the original, but like I could be on board with it. But it's just like it takes, I don't know, 50 minutes of the hour and 20 to like actually get, you know, them going after these creatures. It's just so fucking boring for the first like at least 40 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, I feel like we're here for the humanoids, right? And I feel like they just put too much like backstory into the characters, which I feel is why the first one works well with it being like the whole town, because it's like not emotionally involved in anybody. It's like the entire town.
I think like I really like a movie like the original one where it's just some fucked up monsters show up and like maybe you have one main character you follow, but for the most part you're not getting like a shit ton of backstory. You have like the one scientist that maybe is trying to figure out what's going on, but you're right, kind of just watching like a town deal with this threat. And the remake is like you just get so much backstory of like the fucking dad, the dude from Clueless, and then like to an extent like the guy that's throwing the chemicals in the water. And I'm just like, I don't give a fuck about any of these people. Like, just give me some monsters, like ripping people to shreds. Maybe one guy that's trying to stop it. Give me, like, what they should have done is fuck this dad, fuck the dude. It should have been Clint Howard as the cop trying to solve everything.
Yeah. His part in it is very funny. Like after the first attack when he's interrogating Clueless guy, he's like, "Oh, did the monsters tell you their intent to kill again?" And I was like, "Ah!"
Always a delight. Like him popping up in anything, I'm always like, "Yeah, I'm in." Like this movie sucks, but like I know at least there's going to be 4 minutes where I'm like, "Fuck yeah, Clint Howard's here."
Yeah. And like for example, too, we have what's his name? Goggins.
Yeah, Walter Goggins
is in it. Him and some other guy who are like dumping the chemicals get attacked, which doesn't make any sense because we find out that the monsters are alive because of the chemicals. So again, it just, and like I feel like even though there's all of these attacks that are unconnected, I feel like there's less people dying in this one than the first one. Because at the end of the first one, you have that extended salmon festival scene where the monsters are running around and like ripping people's shirts off and killing them and stuff.
The end of that movie is so fun.
It is, and whereas in this one, they go to the festival, they do a thing in the fun house.
Same festival that they like all of the carnival footage is just straight up lifted from the original.
That makes sense though, because they added this like funhouse scene that at first I was like, oh shit, this could be fun. They don't do anything with it, and then they immediately leave the carnival, and I was like, what?
I feel like that's the one time you actively see like one of the humanoids in like in sort of a lit thing where you're like, okay, this looks kind of cool.
Right, and I have to say it was like a little strange for me because in the original, I feel like when I don't know if they like during the production came into money, because I felt like in the very beginning the monsters looked very stupid, and then from like halfway to the end of the movie they suddenly looked very cool, except for this one humanoid that had like huge long like RoboCop guy arms, and I was like, what's going on with it? I don't know. The quality of the humanoids in the first one was like varying for me, but the ones that were good were extremely good, and I thought the gore was pretty good in it too, like for what it was.
Yeah, they do like a really good job. Like Roger Corman is like one of those producers and like directors, like whatever, that will like some of his movies look cheap, but I feel like the monster shit always rocks in them. Like he puts all of the money into that, and like everything else is kind of just like will look pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Like, look at The Thing and the fucking Fantastic Four that he did. It rocks.
Okay. So essentially the remake starts, and this is what I don't like about it, is that, like I said, the original one, there is mystery and kind of like you don't really know what's going on. The remake immediately starts with the military shooting and catching a box on fire that's growling. So already you know that the fucking government has something to do with this, which like we were saying, the tones of the two movies are different, whereas the first one is kind of like, oh, this hopeful new genetic engineering thing, like maybe we'll try it, maybe it's good because we don't really know the repercussions of what we're doing, whatever, right? And this one is basically just like, the government's bad, which, like, yeah, but I don't really need that in every single monster movie that I watch. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So it immediately starts with the military doing something, right? One of the military guys sees a manhole cover that's open, and I was like, okay, already this is weird because the humanoids aren't in water, they're in the sewer. And, some guy gets his head bitten off, I guess. This is where we meet, like, the main character. It cuts, right? We meet the main characters, which is a bunch of activists, one of them being... Let me see what his actual name is, because I called him Christian, which is what I think his Clueless name was.
Matt, maybe?
Yeah.
Justin Walker? Yeah, Justin Walker.
Yeah. So he's a part of, like, an activist group that is trying to get them to stop doing the, like, stuff on the... dumping stuff in the water to fatten up the salmon, right? And then we meet the dad from Even Stevens, who is...
Is that Mark Rolston? Oh, no, wait, that would be something Parker? This cast list is weird on Letterboxd because for some reason, like, the doctor...
He's down here. His name is Robert Carradine.
I wonder if this was like... No, that wouldn't make sense. Oh, yeah, this cast list is very strange because it's almost like... It kind of looks like it's in order of appearance, but it's not. I don't understand.
Yeah, he's, like, way down, and he's, like, one of the main characters.
Yeah, I don't know why this doctor that's, like, doesn't show up until, like, the last third of the movie or whatever is, like, the number one casted on Letterboxd. I think Mark Rolston is the guy that's pouring the shit into the water. Bill Taylor.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. I was so not interested in anyone's name in this movie.
No. And, like, really the only characters are like I said. But Robert Carradine is also from one of my favorite masterpieces, Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire. He plays Van Helsing. So I just called him Dad.
I don't think I've seen that.
It's,
I am fully on board with those, like, my stepmom is a werewolf, like, type movies.
Yeah.
So that's right up my alley.
Well, and the mom in the movie is Caroline Rhea, so
shit.
It's
Actually,
very much...
I may have seen this, like, back when I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a Disney movie. I don't think it was, like, a Disney Channel original, but they played it on the Disney Channel.
It's on Disney Plus. So
okay.
It probably is.
I freaking love it. It's one of my yearly Halloween watches. He
was also in the Tommyknockers, apparently.
Yeah.
And Sharktopus versus Terracuda.
Perfect.
Anyway.
What a great actor. And like I said, he was the dad on Lizzie McGuire. I was saying Even Stevens. It was Lizzie McGuire. He was on Body Bags too. Okay, well, I don't know. We can't really stan anybody unless we've checked their socials. So let me just calm down a little bit here. Okay. So the thing here is that Lizzie McGuire's dad is working for the canning company, and he also, which I didn't need any of this backstory because it's like he works for the canning company, but he also agrees that they shouldn't be doing what they're doing, and I'm just like, I don't need this, right? And so this is, of course, where we find out that his daughter Kim is dating Christian from Clueless, and they go out. I don't know who thinks sitting at the bayou and making out is romantic, but that's what they're doing. They've got their feet in the water at nighttime. I mean, if that's where you live,
I guess you just have to, like, do what, deal with where you're at, but not my first choice.
No, and they've got their feet in the water.
Unless you're trying to make out with Swamp Thing, then
right. Unless you're trying to hook a humanoid, but he's not. So, anyways, they're making out. They hear growls and they take off because they're scared. Then we get, and it's like interesting because there are a few scenes that they remake that are literally taken exactly from the original, which is like the fake underwater sea kelp forest that they film or whatever. This is another one where, so like, we're already probably half an hour into the movie when this scene happens, which is that there is a boat. In the original, it was just like one of the fishermen from the town who has his son like helping him, and of course he's like yelling at his son because he's a dad and that's what dads do. But in this one, it's kind of like a tourist boat because there's like some unrelated kid that's on the boat and it's like, oh yeah, we caught something, and they show like the humanoid stuck in a net, but all they're showing is its hand like pawing at the net or whatever. And then the little boy gets thrown into the water and gets eaten. His mom jumps in. Then we see like the boy's autopsy, which essentially it's just like the upper half of his body that's left. And we get even more backstory on Lizzie McGuire's dad for whatever reason, which is that at one point in time he was attacked by a shark. And so now, I guess, anytime somebody gets killed in the water, they make him come down to the morgue so that they can measure his scar marks and against, like, the people who have been attacked to see if it was the same shark.
That's so funny. Like, imagine you're just, like, at work and they're like, hey, they need you down to the morgue. We need you to come down. Like, God damn it, you just take your shirt off.
Like, essentially, he's like watching TV and he sees like the news report and he's like, oh, for the love of God. And then he goes down there. I'm like, that's got to be, take pictures or something. Like
you should already, like, I would assume after maybe the second time you'd be like, all right, maybe we should just save his measurements.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why does he have to go down there every time?
Take a fucking picture or cast of his fucking like scars.
Right? They're like, please, sir, come down and view this dead child's body and just stand there. And he's like, what? And the doctor's like, what, are you scared? And I was like, what is going on here? Yeah, so we get, like, he's having, like, flashbacks about it or whatever. But then, like, this never comes up again. So I'm not really sure why did they have to insert this part at all. I don't know. Okay, so yeah, this is where one of the humanoids attacks a chemical dumping boat and it explodes. So in the first one, the child dying and the boat explosion were the same scene, and then this one they're separate for whatever reason. But this is where everybody starts to be like, okay, something weird's happening. Like, why would that boat explode? You know, whatever. Oh, I wrote single dad probs. So they have just like all of this, like, I don't know, exposition about like him being a single dad and like dealing with having a daughter. Man, must be hard, right? I don't know. This is when Kim, his daughter, and Christian from Clueless go and hang out on the beach with their friends, and everybody decides that they're going to skinny dip in the ocean at night together.
Hard pass.
Who? And everybody gets attacked, except for Christian. He doesn't do anything either. She's like, help, help, and he's just like staring at her being attacked.
Yeah, I'd be staring from the beach. But like, fuck you.
I would not have gone in at all. Which I feel like would have made more sense if he was just like, nah, I'm not really into it, and then everyone was attacked.
And that's because they wanted to make the joke that acted like he was underwater, like, I don't know, doing things to her, I guess. They make it very unclear if it's supposed to be sexual or he's like tickling her or something. But like he's like blatantly like 15 feet away from her.
Also, I'm not really sure. Yeah, it scientifically didn't make a lot of sense to me what could have been going on under the water. Like, whatever. Okay. Then there are some other people. Oh, okay. So then they like question him. They're thinking that he did this, and I'm like, yeah, he himself. He's a little bit small statured. He's gonna attack and kill like 7 people in the like. Fine, sure. And then they're like, okay, well, this is weird because you know, some of the people's bodies weren't recovered, some of them were. we come to find out that the doctor is like looking at the bodies and being like, he probably didn't do this, right? So he's fine. Then some people get attacked in a marina, and Lizzie McGuire's dad happens to be there and saves them and sees one of the humanoids and is like, Now they're doing the cabin explosion, which again is something that happened in the first one, but for completely different reasons. And the dad ends up saving Christian from, getting exploded. Then they meet a reporter who ends up actually being a ex-employee of a genetics lab. And this is where we find out the backstory of the humanoids in this movie, which are extremely stupid. So, because they're going full pivot, the military's like the bad guy here, which, come on, how many times do we have to do this? And so basically what they did was they created this like fish DNA that they injected into death row inmates because they were trying to make amphibious soldiers. Smart. Okay. Very cool. And so they're like, well, it was fine. Like we released that they were like running around in the sewers or whatever, and they shouldn't be able to survive in the water the way that they have been. But they can because they've been eating the chemicals that the Canco company has been dumping into the water for the salmon. And in my mind, I'm like, that makes no sense. Do I want to believe that dumping chemicals will genetically alter prehistoric fish? Yeah, 100% I'm there with you. This one, not so much. Like, you injected inmates and then they somehow morphed into a humanoid fish guy. Yeah, makes sense to me. And then they ate chemicals to survive in the salt water? I don't think so. I wrote salmon chemical is keeping them awake instead of alive.
Also that, probably. I
mean, they're not going to drown if they're, This is where, and like the whole time, the like guy who owns Canco or whatever, like doesn't care about any shit that's happening. But then his wife gets taken, and now he is a good guy, of course.
Yeah.
The cops, Howard, investigates a manhole/sewer for whatever reason and ends up getting attacked by the creatures. Dad and Christian show up and catch one on fire. They immediately go on the news, and the genetic lab doctor person is on there being like, here's your proof that these monsters are out here. The government, it's your fault. Come deal with it. And the government's watching the TV, and they're like, son of a bitch. So now they gotta come figure it out,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, we all know the government likes to respond very swiftly to things.
Yeah. This is one of the scenes that, in retrospect, I think ruined part of the movie for me. Not ruined part of the movie, but this is a misstep. Because in the original movie, you don't, like, they do end up finding one of the girls alive at the end. And they don't really know what's been happening the whole time. Like, they know that the creatures are attacking and killing people, but they're like not really totally sure like what's going on, right? There's like, I don't know, they're humanoid creatures. And then at the they find one of the girls alive. They have her in the hospital, and she's like kind of, loopy, which like I feel like is fair. And at the very, very end of the movie, traumatically, she gives birth. Well, I wouldn't say gives birth, but a humanoid, an even more humanoid sea creature busts out of her stomach. Yeah. And that was very jarring. That happens at the very end of the original movie, which I think amazing. Loved it. So good. In this movie, we're like in the middle of the movie when the kid who gets eaten's mom, who has been missing, walks into the bar and is like stumbling around like, where's my son? Where's my son? She falls on a table, is suddenly very pregnant, and then a fish baby comes out, busts out of her stomach, and it like scuttles away. It just like jumps onto the ground and like runs away. And I feel like doing this at this part in the movie, to me, ruins what they're trying to do at the end.
Well, like, I think you either have to do this like in the first 15 minutes, like show it, or at the end. Like, I think it's like one or the other. But
Yeah.
like at least like it looks good. I like the way it looks in the remake, but like yeah, it kind of just makes it where like once you get to like the end when it happens to the doctor, you're just kind of like, okay, well I've already seen this. Like
Yeah, exactly. And when you're watching the first one, you don't expect it because like maybe they did explicitly say that the point was to try, but you as like a person that's watching at the point it happens in the original, you don't actually know that it's possible for them to give birth
yeah,
to the creature, right? And so we're in the middle of the movie and they just kind of do it and I was like, okay, all right, great. It's not, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, it just like scuttles away. Then we also see the girls that have been taken, and they're in some kind of like like seaweed cocoon type situation, and we see it a lot, which also to me kind of like breaks some of the illusion of mysteriousness around like where the girls have been the whole time. And I'm like, we don't really need to see this, but whatever.
yeah.
This is when the government comes. Then, and also, if they would have left out that scene, I feel like this next scene would have been a lot more, like, cooler, where one of the girls' body washes up on the beach, and they go because they think it's, Kim, and they turn her over, and it's not her, but you can clearly see that she was pregnant, and so, like, in my mind, that would have been so much like, oh my god, what's going on, if they wouldn't have just shown us somebody having a baby,
I also think it's so funny how, like, the boyfriend like finds the body and like the dad's like, I don't know, 200 feet away and has this whole like running at her, and the boyfriend looks like so sad and scared, and then it's just like, oh, it's not her, and you're just like, what the fuck?
Maybe he forgot what she looked like.
Yeah, he's like, oh, she's blonde.
That girl had brown hair though. I was like,
it'd be so funny if just like randomly after that he's just like, yeah, I have face blindness.
Yeah, don't remember what she looks like. I only saw her twice before she got taken, and it was at night both times.
Like,
so
I'm not gonna lie,
I don't know what you want from me.
She got nude in front of me to get in the water, so I was in, but I don't know what her face looks like.
Yeah, I don't know at all. Okay. Okay, so then for whatever reason they go to jail where, like, after the government shows up, they for some reason arrest the Canco people for like dumping the chemicals, even though like, yeah, okay, they shouldn't have been dumping the chemicals, but also what happened is not their fault.
The most insane thing in this movie we didn't talk about is that after they think that the daughter is just like killed or whatever, the dudes that work at the fishing company like come up to the dad at the bar who's like getting drunk, and they're just like, well, you see, what we're going to do to pay him back is we're going to go to his house, break his legs so he can't get away, and then light his house on fire. I'm just like, oh, yeah. Holy shit.
They're like,
not even just like, we're just going to shoot him. They're like, no, we're going to make this as painful as possible. We're going to burn him alive after we break his legs.
And especially because, like, he didn't even do it. Like,
yeah, the dad's, well, like, I think they know that. I think it's because they know that like they're the ones that filmed them dumping the shit,
right?
And so like it's like I get the idea behind it is that like if you burn the house down, the tape they couldn't find also would more than likely get burned. It's just so funny that like going up, the dad's just like, nah, I don't want to like do this, and they're just like, well, what if we do this instead and we just break his legs? And it's like, god damn.
Thanks for the offer, but I'm fine. Yeah, that was like the cabin. They do end up exploding his cabin, which is, like the dad saves Christian and then like they're friends after that or whatever. But it is like very drastic.
I mean, so I get like, you get to the end and he's just like immediately he's like, no, you can't date my daughter, and I was like, what? Yeah,
I don't know. Okay. They get the Canco guy out of jail because they want to get more chemicals to I don't know, lure. I don't understand this plot point, but essentially their plan is that they're going to try and put a tracker on one of the humanoids so they can like track it to its den or whatever to find the girls. And so, like, they break that guy out of jail whose wife is missing. So, like, obviously he wants to help. But they're going to go get more chemicals because I guess the chemicals lure the humanoids. Like, I'm not really sure. That wasn't explained very well to me.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either. Other than, like, I guess,
Um,
like, maybe they know, like, that the chemicals, like, help them in some way. I don't know. They
right.
don't do, like, an actual explanation of that.
Yeah, I don't know. So, so yeah, so they go out on the boat to try and do that. Because they also realize that they need a bait, which is a woman. And so the scientists actually, like, what ends up happening is that they're on the boat, the humanoids come, the scientist falls in, and humanoids steal her,
I just like that they slap the boat and everyone just, like, falls over.
essentially. And they have something on a tracker, but it ends up being a dolphin. And so they are no closer to finding out what's happening. Also, now the scientist is stolen. The government's mad at them. Then we have the salmon festival. And in the original movie, this is like literally the
Yeah.
climax where they have the festival, everything's normal, and then all of a sudden the humanoids start busting out of the boardwalk and running
It's
around and killing
it's
people.
one of the best, I think, at least in, like, sort of what I could think of at the moment, like, or I guess, like, especially outside of maybe like a zombie movie, like one of the best just, like, scenes of chaos happening, because there's just so much shit happening at the end of the original. And it's, there's, like, people get fucking thrown in the water and swam away with. There's just, like, just a huge carnival full of people, and then just, like, monsters just start wreaking havoc, and it rocks.
Yeah, and in this one, they like they like show some of the scene, and then like I said earlier, they go into a fun house, but like nothing really amounts to that, and then they're just like, oh, we got it tracked, let's leave, and they like immediately leave, and I was like, wait, what? Because it's like the last 15 minutes of the movie is supposed to be the festival, and now they've left, and I was like, what is even happening? And basically what happened is that they tracked one of the humanoids who runs away, and then they follow it. They find a location at the beach, and they tell the government, like, hey, we think this is where they're going. And the government's like, okay, well, there's like rocks down there, and so probably anyone who's not a humanoid is dead. And they're like, what about air pockets? And they're like, we don't care. Because they are going to just like blow it up, right? And then, like, meanwhile, at the same time, Kim and the scientists are awake, and the scientist is like, this liquid's flammable. Get my lighter and set them on fire. So they're doing that at the same time. And I'm like, what? Why? Okay. Then, I don't know, they end up like, just like Scoobying in and saving like all the women, right? And then they're like, woohoo, yay, we did it, good job. And then a humanoid guy comes out and like kills the head military government director. And then they set it on fire, and it just like rolls off into the sea. Okay, now it switches to the hospital where all of the girls, there's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them are safe. And the doctor says, like, oh, guess what? Oh, really good news. Nobody's pregnant, because they were all on their periods. And we're like, okay, cool, I guess. And so they have this like long drawn out like goodbye where the scientist and Kim are like, Kim's like, here, I bought you a lighter. And she's like, oh my gosh, thank you. Take care, sweetie. And there's like this long, like, happy ending thing. And the scientist like gets in her car and drives away. And then all of a sudden this doctor's like, oh no, we had a false negative. Somebody is pregnant. And then the doctor also has a fish baby, but it's off camera. And then like Hootie and the Blowfish starts playing, and then it's the end. And I was like, what?
Gotta
So
have that Hootie and the Blowfish.
it was like so upbeat for what just happened. And so that was the movie. So again, I don't know. Like we were saying, I think it's definitely one of those things where like watching both makes you like, I like that because it's like we said, it is reflectant of like what was happening at the time that the movies were being made. But like, I don't know, did this movie have to be made? You know what I mean? Like, remade?
Like,
I don't know.
I theoretically can back like a Humanoids from the Deep remake. I just think the 90s was a bad time to do it, because not a lot great was happening in the 90s, at least in America. So, like, I don't know, like, I could... Like, if somebody was like, hey, we're going to do a remake of Humanoids from the Deep now, I don't necessarily want it, but I could see that being interesting. This just was not great.
No, and, like, to be fair, I haven't seen a lot of these kind of, like monster movies from the 80s. I'm like, so I don't really know if, like, this plot was, like, unique to Humanoids. I just feel like anything that I felt was, like, good or unique about this original one, they completely did away with by making it like, oh, inmate government experiment. Like, how many times have we seen that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that, like, I think, I don't know. It's just too boring for it to be good, I think.
Yeah. And then it's like they did that other thing, which is, like, this might as well, yeah, you were right. Like, it does have a very made-for-TV feel, where it's like, we didn't really need all of this backstory about, like, the characters' relationships with each other, and, like, you know, because you don't have that in the original, and it's fine.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. Oh, yeah.
Not great. Not the worst thing I've ever seen. Totally, like, it's, like, I gave it 1 star, but it's, like, in actuality, it's a totally passable movie. It's just too boring for what the story is.
Yeah, very boring. Like, not offensive in any way, but just very nothing.
It's just
like,
very middle of the road.
Yeah. And also, I didn't like I said, them changing the plot point to it being like a government experiment really knocked it down for me. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you don't even need that. Like, I think the storyline alone of just these dudes dumping chemicals into the ocean, where you have, like, I also think you could have done more with the plot point of like the like animal activists or whatever against, like, this fishing company thing. Like, it's just, I don't know, they set up all of the stuff that just, like, really for no reason.
Yep.
Like,
agree.
The whole, other than dude just being like, well, this wasn't a shark, like, that whole fucking thing goes nowhere. I don't know.
Exactly.
Very
yes. Weird. They just, like, added too much information, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, there have been obviously, like, some movies we've watched like this where I'm just like, they don't explain anything, they don't really tell us what's going on, and in this one it's, like, too much.
Well,
TMI.
But it's also like they I guess they explain stuff, but not really, because they're just like, here's a fact. All right, this is going to be, like, have no fucking bearing on anything going forward.
They explain too much for things we don't actually care about.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Did you look up any news at all?
Oh, no.
I
gotta be honest with you. The only thing that I've been reading about or following is that submarine that got lost. It's looking for the Titanic.
Incredible. I am very on board with, like, millionaires just doing the dumbest shit possible, accidentally, like, killing themselves.
And the more I see about it, the more I am just, like, baffled by the situation. And, like, obviously it's sad because that would be such a scary way to go. I think the chances of them finding them is, like, so minuscule that, like, it just is, like,
eventually someone will discover that sub in, like, 3 years.
But not in any way, because also Tiffany, of course, is, like, obsessed with it because she posted that thing about how she said she wanted to go on it, and I was like, I absolutely would not, and I just love when I'm proven right, you know. But then one of my other friends is, like, obsessed with it also, so we've been, like, talking about it, and, like, the more that it's like I don't really understand the point, because, like, the submarine that they went down in didn't have, like, viewing windows. It was just, like,
I assumed it had, like, the window in the front so they could see what they were doing, but, like, maybe not.
I think I could be wrong, but I'm under the impression that it was just, like, a camera, and then they were watching everything on a monitor. Which is like, do that on YouTube, you
Didn't
know?
fucking like
Like,
James Cameron create some sort of like underwater thing to like go explore shit that's literally like glass around the entire thing? I think like wild.
yeah, and also it's like then also the submarine that they're in is they are literally screwed into the submarine from the outside. So even if they surface and somebody like even if let's just say that they surface somewhere, they still can't get out. They need someone to find them and
Right.
unscrew them from the vessel. And like I can't think. I just said that I've been like obsessed with it. I can't think about it too deeply because it actually fills me with just like so much anxiety and dread. Like feeling like what, first of all, I would never get in a submarine. We went to, I don't know, some kind of battle. You know, when I was like young and we went on vacation, our vacations were like historical learning moments
Terrible.
or whatever. Right. So we went somewhere where it was like a battleship, and then connected to it was a submarine that it didn't work anymore. But you go into the submarine, and they had a hard time getting me in that, and it wasn't even under the water. So like there's just no way I would ever find myself in that situation, but I can't stop thinking about what that would be like. And
Yeah, seems bad.
yeah,
Not
not great. So anyways, that is a horror news in a different light, but
I know you didn't watch it, but there's a trailer for Kraven the Hunter, and
oh, I didn't even see that there was one.
Does not look great. Maybe
Uh-oh.
Sony should rethink this whole villains only universe of bullshit they're doing.
Yikes.
I mean, I'm gonna watch it, but looks.
I'm not gonna like it.
I was very into the idea of a Kraven movie. That's again. If you don't have Spider-Man in these movies, like, what's the point?
Yeah,
Like,
I
the
don't
thing
know.
about that makes these villains interesting is their like interactions with Spider-Man. So taking him out of it is just fucking like negates the entire point of them. But this is what they want to do. Let's see what else is on here. Evil Dead Rise is coming to some streaming services, I think the end of June, maybe.
Okay.
It's like a shit ton of this is coming to Blu-ray, this is coming to this. Don't even know what any of these movies are. I don't care about. So, I don't know what Bloody Disgusting recently has been doing all these things. Like, here's 8 things we learned from the audio commentary of this movie. And it's like, maybe just let people fucking listen to the audio commentary.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, whenever I am going for, like, horror news, I'll just immediately go there because, like, you know, it's just, like, the easiest thing. And in the past, like, year, it's been so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that, or it's like, we forgot about this. Anytime that I, like, give a headline that we make fun of, it's almost always from their articles where it's like, here's this movie you forgot about, but it's like a movie that's still, it's like, I don't know, Pet Sematary 2, this movie that nobody knows about that you forgot about. And it's like, no. I think about Pet Sematary 2 every day.
I see on Instagram all the time somebody that'll be like, I never see anyone talk about this movie, and it's like The Devil's Rejects. I'm like, bro, people don't stop talking about these fucking movies.
Right. Or it's like, listen, don't get me wrong. Assuming that they are paying people for everything they're putting out, good for you.
Yeah.
Write about what you want, but it'll be like the horror of Sailor Moon. And I'm like, Sailor Moon? It's stretching. It's stretching for me, right? I don't know.
Yeah. Fuck the news. It's definitely good. What'd you watch this week?
Well, unlike last week, where I watched mostly a lot of things that ended up being very good, I watched a lot of things that were not good this week. So, where do I even start? So I started with this movie that you and I texted about that is called Unknown Visitor, which was a found footage movie, but from the perspective of a Ring doorbell. It wasn't good. I thought, I'll just watch it because it's under an hour. Like, why not? It was, I don't know. And this is my problem because then after this movie, I immediately started looking at their other movies, and there was a movie called Deadware, which was another found footage movie that takes place. This movie came out in 2021, but the movie takes place in 1999. And it is from the point of view of two friends who are using a webcam for the first time. And they're playing like a browser game. So I was like, okay, that sounds really cool. I'm going to say, overall, this movie was not good. But they did such a good job at making it look like, I don't know, maybe they did find some old webcams and use them. It looked incredibly nostalgic 1990s. Whoever programmed the browser game that they were playing, really, it was really, convincing. So this movie was a little over an hour, and the first half an hour, I was extremely into it. I was like, oh my God, maybe this is going to be good. Because they're playing this browser game, and in between the browser game, some of the things that happen is that they show you a found footage video to progress through the game or whatever. And then it just kept going and got really bad. So it wasn't great, but it was better than the first one. And then I decided that Isaac Rodriguez and I would part ways. I only watched 2 of their movies. Then I watched I don't know what my problem is, that I'm going back and watching a lot of horror movies that I skipped in the early 2000s because none of them are good. So I watched The Unborn from 2009.
I don't know what that is.
So I thought I was watching, do you remember that movie that might be called The Eye? Where the girl gets a surgery to get an eye implanted, and then she starts seeing dead people with the eye?
I don't think so.
So I thought that's the movie that I was watching because there's a weird eye thing that happens in this. But essentially, this movie is about a woman who is being haunted by, she was a twin at birth and the twin died. And then it goes back generations where the original grandfather twin that died or something is trying to possess people. I don't know. It ended up being really stupid, which to me was a bummer because there were some jump scare things in it that I haven't really seen in another movie that I actually really liked. But overall, the story, it was very stupid and it was bad. Then I watched One Missed Call, the American remake, also
Terrible.
Stupid. Really bad. Then I watched Class of 99 for the first time.
Yeah, movie rocks.
But I didn't rate it because I was watching it on TV and I fell asleep. So I need to go back and rewatch it.
Did Kit and I talk about that separately? I think the episode Kit and I did, with 2 weeks ago that you weren't on. Because I watched that for Junesploitation. It was one of the ones I talked about, and it's that one and Class of 1984. I think is the year in it, or it's the same director, and they both rock.
Yeah, it was just on TV. That channel I told you that Ichi the Killer was on, and I was like, what is happening? Why do my TV channels actually kind of rock? So I need to go back and rewatch it because I didn't see the end. Then I watched a movie from 2000 called The Watcher that starred James Spader as an FBI agent and Keanu Reeves as a serial killer.
Hell yeah.
Bad. Stupid.
I'm still gonna watch it.
The movie opens with Keanu Reeves slow-mo dancing to Drugula, so that was fun, but the movie itself is just really stupid. Then I watched a Lifetime movie called Sinister Stepsister.
Oh yeah.
It was bad. Okay.
There's no way that's bad.
I love Lifetime movies of lore. These newer ones are kind of not it. So I need to keep watching. Oh, then I did watch I didn't watch all of it, but I watched an older one that's a staple of Lifetime movies, which is called Too Young to Be a Father. Perfect. A Father at 15. I don't think I talked about this, but I finished it. I was like texting you and Kit about this. I was watching this show that's called The Haunting of ... And essentially what it is it takes people who were originally on Celebrity Ghost Stories, which is from, like the early 2000s or whatever, and it brings them back so that they tell the story about what happened, and then they physically go to the place that it happened with Kim Russo, who is a medium, and then she like talks to the people and like resolves their fear. And the reason that I watched it is because Eric Mabius, who is the best crow from Crow Salvation,
sure,
I saw, and I was like, whoa, that's wild. So then I watched the entire season, and there's some pretty good people on there, and then there's some people that I had never heard of, and I'm like, you're what? And it was like really interesting, but so I watched that. Then I watched I'm almost done.
That's fine.
I watched 2 documentaries. One was called Shiny Happy People, which is about the Duggar family. Do you know about them?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was okay. The reason it was like such a big thing when it came out is because this was supposed to be the first, like, it's called Shiny Happy People Duggar Family Secrets, and it was supposed to be like a tell-all. And one of the daughters, I think it was Jill, and her husband, who he was a part of like the church too. What is the cult? They're in basic life principles or something. Anyway, she's in it, but I feel like I didn't really learn anything from it that like isn't already knowledge, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like especially a lot of the like modern, like kind of, like, I know that's not, I mean, I guess it is kind of true crime, but like, those like documentaries on like these things where like I feel like so much of it by the time the documentary comes out has been so covered in like on the internet that it's like you're not learning anything.
Right.
Like,
and so like
where Caitlin and I have been watching The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, like one of the women on it gets arrested, and like even like by the time the season aired, like she is like pleads guilty to, and like gets like 7 years for like massive fraud and like conspiracy to commit fraud against like elderly people or whatever. And there's like a documentary on Hulu about it, and like I was reading about the documentary, and everyone was like, well, I mean, if you watched like the show or like saw like anything in the news about it, you already know everything that's happening. It just goes slightly more into like the like what her like company did, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I want to waste like an hour and a half watching this thing I already know everything about.
Yeah, and so like I would say, so for me, if for somehow you don't know who the Duggars are, like I guess if you weren't ever into what's it called, life
There's probably like TLC or some shit.
reality shows, you might not really know anything about them. They used to be, and the documentary does do a good job of like going through kind of like how they started with the like how they started being on TV. And so this is like a really good I feel like background for people who kind of are aware of who the Duggars are but don't really know any of it, because they used to be on a show, and I think it might have started with 12 of their kids. They've got like 20 kids now. They are part of the Basic Life Principles church, quote unquote, cult situation, where they're essentially just like, however many kids we have, it's God's will, right? And so now they have like 20 kids. And the documentary, so like, and the shows, and I watched it when it was 16 kids and counting. There was like a huge time period where they had a bunch of other like religious big families. It was like Bates and Me or something, I don't know. There was like a few of them at the time, and it was like extremely like popular, right? And so I'm like fascinated with cults that are related to how women are treated, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so watching this was like they go into a little bit more about like where in the show they made everything seem like, oh, we're a great, that's why it's called Shiny Happy People, right? It's like they were a great happy family, everyone got along, everything was fine, the kids were happy, like everybody was helpful, and we did this and that. And the documentary kind of goes into like, no, this is actually terrible. Like you had the 15-year-old kids like raising the infants, and like you would have like a courtship between two people where like the dad would choose who was going to marry the girl, and then they weren't allowed to even hold hands, and like all of this shit. And it's like actually so insane. And then the oldest son, there's like a bunch of scandals with him because so trigger warning for that too, because like
oh yeah, there's a lot of like sexual assault of like family members and shit in that story.
Young family members.
And
he had
a lot of police cover up.
Oh yeah. Well, because like some of that stuff, I guess maybe I don't know how public it was, but they do have the people in the documentary who I feel like added the most were this couple who used to be friends with the parents, and they were on like the original TV shows because they were like in the church, they were friends of the family. Maybe one of their kids married the Duggars kids, I don't know, but they flipped on them because when they found out about the oldest son having done that, they did not agree with the way that he was punished, aka he wasn't punished at all. And one of the cops involved in the cover-up is like a family friend and part of the church. So like, of course. And so it's just stuff like that. And then like it keeps going with the son. He's in jail now. But it goes into a little bit of depth with that. But anyways, I feel like it's good for people who like kind of peripherally know who they are and want to learn more about it. But as somebody, if you know stuff about it, it's like, I mean, throw it on if you want, but you're not going to learn anything new.
Did you watch The Vow? The NXIVM documentary?
I feel like I did, but I
was curious because they like, I feel like they did, like the first season is really good. And then like it kind of covered like everything, right? As like as much as everyone knew. And then they were like, we're doing a second season, and I've just been like, I don't know if I know anyone that's watched the second season, whether it's like actually worth watching or not.
I should watch it because I actually don't know if I have. I've listened to a few podcasts on the NXIVM cult, but like some of them are just, I don't know, some of them are so similar. Yeah. I like get like confused because I'm like, do I know?
This one, like the actual first season of The Vow is good because you get like a fuck ton of footage somehow from like.
I love that. What was, like,
just because they like this dude would film everything. And so, I don't know who, like, snuck stuff out. Well, I guess, like, I don't know, when the FBI raided them or fucking whatever, like, they got all this footage. But, like, you get, like, a shit ton of footage of him, like, leading, like, meetings and shit. It's interesting. Anyway.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that. And then I watched The Curious Case of Natalia Grace, which... It's one of those documentaries that they did in episodes, and I feel that there were too many episodes because the first two episodes. So basically, Natalia Grace is it's very confusing because they pose this as this little girl from the Ukraine that gets adopted. And it literally makes it seem in the beginning like this is an orphan situation, where they've adopted this little girl who has some kind of like dwarfism, and I can't pronounce like the thing that she actually has. So they adopt her, and they're like, oh, she's 6, she's from the Ukraine, but she doesn't have an accent, she can't speak whatever the language is, and she's only supposedly been in America for a year, right? And so then there's like, I don't want to give away, because I think that the beginning of this documentary is really worth watching because if it's like very scandalous. And by the third episode, I was like very confused as to whether I thought she was actually a child or whether I thought she was an adult, and it goes very crazy, right? But then the last couple episodes are dealing with the fallout of it and the dad, because there's like a lot of allegations obviously of abuse that happened with her, and I think that part of my problem is that I don't like the dad at all. I don't think that he's genuine. I think that his interviews, he feels like he's, I don't know. I need somebody else to watch it so I can talk to them about it and figure out what I feel like is going on. Because it's one of those things where like they present a lot of information to you, but I feel like it's leading. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they'll be like, I don't know, she was, I don't know. It's just very confusing. It's wild. If you want to watch something extremely crazy and wild, I recommend that one. Oh my God, I think
Um,
that's it.
if you want to watch something extremely crazy and wild, Caitlin and I watched MILF Manor, and it
No,
was
no.
the worst thing I've ever seen.
What even is
It
that?
is a bunch of horny moms go to an island where they're gonna date young
Oh,
dudes, and it
oh,
turns out all the dudes are all of their sons.
that
And
is.
like it's like the first thing they have to do after it's revealed that it's all their sons is the mom like there's like they're like in some like villa or whatever where there's like two suites and then like the rest of them have to like just like a room full of beds or whatever for the rest of them.
Eh.
And
Yeah.
so to figure out who's going to get the suites, all of the moms are blindfolded and they have to like fondle up their like all of the sons' chests to find which one is their son, and if they get it right, like the two that get it right got like this. It's
Ew.
fucked up. It is the fucking craziest thing I've ever seen.
Let me ask you a question. Why do you know what your son's chest
I don't
feels
know.
like?
One of the things they had to do was they had to the moms had to figure out which underwear was their kids, and then vice versa. And
Ew.
like it's I can't believe this is a fucking real show.
That is disgusting.
It's so fucked up. And then like what's even more wild is I was like one of like, a couple episodes in somebody gets kicked off and then they introduced like another like mom son combo. And I'm like, this lady looks so familiar. And so I looked her up. It was Lisa Wilcox from Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and 5.
Girl.
And then one of the other moms was an actress who was in a bunch of shit like MacGyver and fucking all these like moonlighting, all these 80s TV shows. And so then I was immediately like, all right, well, blatantly, most of these are probably actors that like,
Right.
but like,
Right.
it was one of those things like when we first started watching it and they started doing the shit where they're like fondling their sons. I
Ugh.
was like, okay, I gotta look something up because I hope this is not like real moms and sons. But then you look like like all of the talking heads, they're like together, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my god, all of these moms and sons look exactly the same. Like, there's no way these aren't like real family members. Uh,
That's
Upsetting.
terrible.
Can't believe
Yeah, I don't
I
like
don't
it.
know who's gonna come along to make an even more bottom of the barrel TV show, but I'm sure someone will figure it out.
I
Um,
don't know.
let's see. What did I watch that wasn't exploitation? I watched Vinegar Syndrome's release of A Blade in the Dark, the Lamberto Bava movie from 1983. It's very good, extremely good. Like upgrade of it on a Blu-ray. I also watched their release of Five Women for the Killer. It's like another giallo, and it's good. Like, not the best giallo I've ever seen, but totally watchable. They also Vinegar Syndrome just released this box set called Villages of the Damned. I think it's like three horrors from Spain. That like two of them were really good. Like then there was like this one. I don't think it was called Bloodbath on the box. Let me see if any of these other titles. Oh yeah, it's like in the actual set, the title of the movie is called "The Sky Is Falling." On Letterboxd, it's Bloodbath. But it was this like it's Dennis Hopper's in it, and like he just plays this uh, like drug addicted hippie that's just like slowly losing his mind in this village where like he cannot tell what's like reality and what's not. And
Oh,
like it's fine, but like it just does the same shit over and over and over again. Where I was like, all right, I'm pass, no thank you. But like two of the other movies in the set were just these like folk horror movies from Spain that were pretty fun. Like, or I guess fun's not the right word, but pretty good. And then I finally sat down and watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Greatest movie ever
so
made.
good. Yeah, it's
It's
so good.
unbelievable how good that movie is. I think that's it. Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse, banger. I I need to give it another rewatch because I'm gonna try and go. Maybe not tomorrow, but probably Thursday to try to see Across the Spider-Verse. Um,
I can't wait to
yeah,
see it.
I fucking loved all of Spider Gwen killing it.
Yeah.
Like everyone they cast too, so good. Like Jake Johnson is like the sort of like fat Peter Parker or whatever, like the out of
I
shape
love
one.
him
He's
so much.
so good as like just like fucked up Peter Parker.
Yeah, I love it.
Who else? Oh no, wait, this is Across the Spider Verse. There's somebody else I was gonna shout out. Like obviously Nick Cage as a noir Spider-Man is great.
Is that Lex?
Yeah, Lex is trapped in the room.
Aw, I never hear him meowing.
Oh yeah, Liev Schreiber's Wilson Fisk. I really liked. Lex, get up here.
Aww.
Yeah, and Spider-Verse banger. Alright. We gonna shout out.
I'm gonna shout out. I don't think I talked about these, but I got these Cheetos that are flamin' hot tangy chili fusion, and they're like you texted me that.
Oh, whoops.
They're kind of like chili, they're kind of like Thai flavored, and they're so freaking good. They're flamin' hot brand, but they're not like super spicy. So if you like Cheetos, high recommend.
That was my shout out. But I discovered I can't remember the brand name, but Whole Foods has these vegan like around like Easter and Christmas you get like the chocolate and marshmallow things.
Yes.
There's like just those and they're so fucking good. We also found
Yum.
vegan like cheese balls finally that are really good.
Yummy. Yeah.
Um
I looked at the back too because I was like, I wonder if you could eat these, but they've got milk in them, of
Yeah.
course. Oh my God. Okay, one more thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I went to Trader Joe's recently, and they always do. You know how they have like seasonally, they'll have like I don't know, pumpkin spice everything or whatever. During the summer, they've started doing ube, which is like
Yeah.
okay, so they have a bunch of different mixes, and I finally got. They have their ube. They have their like. They normally do chocolate covered JoJo's, which is their form of like Oreo or whatever. And they did an ube flavor, and it is so freaking good. So obviously you specifically can't eat them, but everyone else should go and get them. They're so good. Then I also they have a ube mochi pancake mix that I haven't tried yet. And then they have the ice cream, but I didn't get the ice cream. So I don't know. Let me know if you like it. But oh, they're so freaking good. I feel like I got something else from there to try, and I can't remember what it was.
I also got this week something I've been like fucking desperate for a vegan company to make. Oatly made banana split ice cream.
Wow.
It's so fucking good. Like I don't know why no vegan ice cream companies have done like a Neapolitan yet. And I'm just like, what the fuck, man? Like this is so easy.
I feel like that would be one of your like first things to do.
Like you're already making like they all already make a vanilla, a strawberry, and a chocolate. Like just make a tub of like them mixed together.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's baffling. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. Instead they're like, here's mint chocolate chip lavender tea flavor, and I'm like, nobody wants this. Make like a fucking good flavor.
I want it actually. If that existed, I would get it.
My shout out, I got two. I finally sat down and read all of Nathan Gray's book. I think it's Until the Light Takes Us, something like that. At the beach yesterday. Very good.
The beach.
Highly recommended read if it's still available to buy. I'm not sure. And then
I'm not sure.
I think it was announced earlier today, maybe last night. Teresa Taylor, one of the drummers from the Butthole Surfers. And then she was in the movie Slacker, died. So go listen to Butthole Surfers. Good band. Lex, stop crying. We're almost done. I'll let you out.
I'm so
soon.
sad.
Did you have an idea for next week? Because if you don't, I do.
I don't.
All right. I've been waiting. Like, there's a movie called "There's Nothing Out There" that I've been wanting to do forever, and it's never streaming, and it finally hit Tubi. So I want to do that, and then once Kit's back, we'll figure out doing Children of the Corn. Because I think right now only the first one is actively streaming for free. So,
Oh,
and I also
yeah.
like I didn't realize there was a short that came out before the first movie that I kind of want to watch, but I can't find it. So, I might figure out. I'm gonna fucking download them all legally and put them up somewhere for us to watch them. I'm
Yeah,
not
I guess
paying
I
to watch
didn't.
11 Children of the Corn movies.
No, I guess I didn't think about.
Well,
I forgot for the Leprechaun, we just like got those collections or
and that's the
whatever.
thing is,
But
I tried looking to see if anybody had released like even if it was like a majority of them, but it's
right,
always only like 2, 3, and 4 or some shit in a collection.
yeah,
We'll figure it out. I still want to do those. It's just I gotta figure it out.
figure it
Like,
out.
because there's 12 of them if you count like the 30-minute short that was like before the first movie, and
Yeah.
not not looking forward to any of them. But yeah, there's nothing out there is on Tubi. I have like the Vinegar Syndrome release of it, and it rocks. It's this really low budget like alien creature movie, but it's the movie that like the director that made it has the like tells the story on the Blu-ray, which I don't know if it's true, but I can also maybe see it being true. Where like there's a character in the movie that is like basically like it's just point for point is just Stu from Scream, and it came
Okay.
out prior to Scream, and the director talks about how he was like really good friends with Wes Craven's son and gave him a script, and then like a couple years later, all of a sudden Scream comes out, and so I don't know.
Oh.
I want to rewatch like the stuff for doing the episode about it, but like I don't know. The movie rocks. I've been wanting to do it for a while, but it's just literally never been streaming. So now it's on Tubi.
All right.
All right. If you would like to support us, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/IBSufferPodcast. You can buy merch at our Store Frontier shop. You can leave us a rating on Spotify and a rating and review on iTunes. Tell us if you're one of the people that seems to like the remake of Humanoids from the Deep more, because I'm gonna block you from listening to the podcast.
Yeah. I was gonna say, don't tell me that.
You can follow us on Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. You can follow Kid at Hidden Kidstery and Kitrification of Blood. You can follow Katie at WerewolfFace and join Katie's Patreon at patreon.com/werewolfface. You working on anything new over there?
Um, no.
All right.
I have some like ongoing. My thing right now is I have some like ongoing projects, and I'm kind of just like waiting, biding my time for August,
Yeah.
which I'll get the prompts sometime in like late July. So I'm just, I don't know, just farting around now.
Fair. Yeah, you can listen to my other podcast, AK Movie Club. Go watch There's Nothing Out There on Tubi. It rocks.
Let's do it.
All right. I hope you don't give birth to a fish creature, but why?
Yeah, I like that.
Don't have it pop out of your stomach like a fucking. Very, very strange.
Yeah.